Hello, everybody, and welcome to our week 6 and our double bye week video, as well as looking at the promotion and relegation teams from last year and see how they are doing. So we're going to start out looking at this recruiting board that we have. We can see that we've got 3 guys that have committed to us, which is what we always like to see. But just to be a bit transparent with how this recruiting season has gone, it has been a bit frustrating to have to only be able to recruit from one guy from each state within our region. That's been definitely a challenge, especially with them having to be 1-stars because we lost our star prestige. It just makes things a bit difficult, and you're trying to really find that guy that's kind of a gem, the diamond in the rough of that state. Every once in a while we can find a couple guys that have a little something. Bryant Lucas isn't terrible for somebody of his prestige because he's got C's and then a C in the play rec as well, which is definitely something that is nice to be able to have. But it's been a bit more difficult to recruit this year with the restrictions that we have, which makes us winning games even more important so that we can advance and get better recruits coming up into this next year. So now we'll look at the teams that are being promoted and relegated from last year and see how their seasons are going. Farmington's season hasn't started the way that they had hoped, but they have played one of the hardest opening seasons there is right now in the NCAA. Their opponents have a combined winning percentage that is 66%, which makes their schedule one of the top 5 most difficult there is right now. Even with that, they have been competitive, beating a ranked Oregon State team and losing a few close conference games that they probably wish that they could have back. Their schedule doesn't get any easier in the second half of the season either, so it's still going to be a very difficult season for them. They were projected to finish around the 8th to 10th place spot in the Pac-12, so they are right around where they were projected, but we will see how they compete in this second half. Stanford's season after being relegated last year has not started well. Going 1-3 in conference play so far is not where they wanted to be. They have faced some of the top teams so far in the conference and competed well, but weren't able to get it done. They were slated to finish in the middle of the conference in the preseason, and they can still reach that projection as their schedule should lighten up a bit in this second half of the season for them. So we will see what kind of results they can get in this second half of the season. Joplin's season has started just about average for them. After being promoted to Tier 1, they were projected to finish around the middle of the conference this season, and time will tell if that is going to happen. So far, they have won all their home games and lost all the road ones, and in those road games, they were ultra competitive, including a 1-possession loss to conference favorites Oklahoma, and currently number 2 team in the country. They have embraced the offense is more fun mentality of the Big 12 and have really run with it. Their defense still hasn't improved much since last season, but with their incredible offense, they have the firepower to be able to keep up with many of these top teams in the conference, and we will just have to see how their season finishes up. After being relegated last year to the Big 10 and Tier 2, Nebraska couldn't have asked for a better start to their season. They are currently 3-1 and taking a commanding shout at being at the top of the conference. They have already played the top 3 projected teams in the conference and came off victorious with a 2-1 record amongst those 3 teams. After being projected to finish near the bottom of the conference, they are really showing that they still want to be competing for the BCS Bowl games and Tier 1 again. They will still have to wait one more year due to the protection rules of being relegated before they can do that, but they are definitely showing that they have the makings of being able to return to that level again very soon. Georgia Tech have started their season pretty well so far after being promoted to the SEC last year. They haven't played too many conference games, but in the few that they have shown that they have the capability to compete at this Tier 1 level. They were projected to finish bottom of the conference in every poll that there is, but they have blown out a conference mate and were able to compete with a team projected to play in the conference championship game. So time will tell us how the season will go for them, but so far they're really showing that they can compete at this level. Last year, NC State were the unfortunate recipient of being relegated in a three-way tie for last place last year, but even with that, they have come out this season and completely dominated the American Conference and Tier 2. Their offense has been dominant this year, with their lowest scoring output being 31 points against a conference mate, Mississippi State. NC State were projected to be finishing either in first or second at the beginning of this season, and they are right now showing that that projection is dead on. They are yet to play some of the best teams in the conference still, but I would imagine they will be able to compete hard in those ones as well. And because of the relegation rules, they aren't eligible for being promoted this year, but they definitely are showing that they are good enough to very quickly go back up to Tier 1. Purdue is not off to a great start after being promoted to Tier 1 and the ACC. Their introduction to Tier 1 was against the defending national champions, and it was an incredibly rude awakening, getting blown out 45-0. Since then, they have been a bit more competitive, but have not pulled off a win yet. Their projections in the preseason were all over the place, either finishing in last place or in the middle of the conference, and so far they're really proving those projections to be true by being all over the place, by getting blown out by the best, and being close against the other two conference teams they have played already. We'll just have to wait and see how the rest of the season will go when they end up playing the rest of the conference to see how they fare. Northwestern, after being relegated to the MAC last year, they have already played more than half of their conference games. The results have not been what they were hoping for, though. After being projected to finish at the top of the conference, they have definitely had a disappointing season, especially with the talent that they have on their team, with some NFL caliber players on their offensive side of the ball and defensive side of the ball. They're going to take a little bit of a break now from conference games coming up, but having lost 3 games already in conference, that will probably take them out of the competition for the top spot in the conference and probably finish either in the middle or near the bottom of the conference. After being promoted last year into the American Conference in Tier 2, UAB has overachieved what their preseason projections were. They were projected to finish in the middle of the conference, but after playing more than half of the conference games, they are right now competing for going from Tier 3 to Tier 1 in just the 2 seasons that we've already had. NC State is ineligible to be promoted this year, so UAB have a great opportunity right now to be moving up. They're going to finish the season against NC State, but the other 3 teams they have to face are teams that are projected to finish near the bottom of the conference. So we're going to have to see what happens at the end of the season and what they accomplish. But right now, with only 1 loss and NC State ineligible to be promoted, it's looking like UAB is just in control of their own destiny right now and could be promoted to Tier 1 after being in Tier 3 just 2 years ago. After being promoted to the Tier 3 Sun Belt last season, it is hard to tell how the season has been going for South Alabama. They have gone 2-2 on the season and beat fellow Tier 3 team Akron in conference play. The offense of South Alabama has probably been the biggest holdup on their season so far. They have not scored very many points on the season and will really need to rely on their defense to do the job for them. After only needing to win 1 game in their last 2 to stay in Tier 2, Air Force was relegated to Tier 3, and so far they've done a really good job. They have not played anyone in their division so far, but in the 2 games against the other division within the conference, they have come away with hard-fought victories, only scoring a combined 28 points in those games. We're going to have to see how the season goes when they start playing against the other teams within their division, as this is a very solid division with a lot of good teams in it that could easily fight for that promotion spot and the conference championship game. Unfortunately, however, they're not going to be eligible for that promotion, even if they were to win the conference due to being relegated last year. After being relegated to Tier 3 and being put in arguably the most competitive and difficult division within Tier 3, Virginia has started out well so far. They have only played the projected bottom team of the conference so far, so it's kind of difficult right now to really know how well the season is going to go for them. It will be interesting to see how this season will go in this division when the games really do start. It will be interesting to see how this division really just shapes out as the season continues, because like I said, this is probably the most difficult division to be in within Tier 3. So they will be hard-fought games for this former Power 5 team. Old Dominion was the unfortunate team to be relegated from the most competitive division in Tier 3 last season. Their season has started well, though, for being in Tier 4. So far, their schedule has been really light, but they are in a net positive within the formula of promotion for that Tier 4 level. Being in the positive numbers puts them in the top quarter of the conference so far right now in this moment, even with just a 500 record with a 2-2 record. So now, while we are looking at the season stats so far at this halfway point in the season of the leaders and the team leaders in their categories, I kind of wanted to clue you in a little bit into what the special formula is for that promotion in Tier 4, just in case you were wondering about it. So because Tier 4 is in the independents, there really isn't any conference games, which makes it difficult to determine who the best team of the conference really is. You could say that you can just choose the team with the best record, but that doesn't really tell who the best team of Tier 4 is for that season. And a lot of this is because a team could load itself with FCS teams and really inflate the record. I've seen it happen in other seasons where a team will load up with 5 FCS games and all of a sudden that's 5 free wins, and their record is just really inflated at that point. So I've tried in the past creating a coach for the team and scheduling for them those conference games, but that became just really extremely tedious and tiresome, and it really just kind of ruined a lot of the schedules within the whole NCAA. A lot of teams were playing 11 games, a lot of teams were playing 10 games on the season, and that just didn't really sit well with me in that way. So I just ended up creating a formula that really works for me. And the way that it really works is that it weights the games that the teams play based on what tier the opponent's team is in. So winning against better teams will result in a better Tier 4 point total. So far, in all my experience, the team with the best record has been the top team, but this last year was the closest I've ever really had to have a team with a 500 record be the best team in Tier 4. But ultimately, South Alabama finished the job and didn't have any bad losses to go and be promoted. But just wanted to be a bit more transparent and answer any lingering questions about this special formula. In my Oswego Dynasty, I have the liberty to schedule the conference games, so we schedule 8 conference games on a rotating basis, and then have my 4 non-conference games be either money games or just competitive games. So now the real season is going to begin for Billings, as we are going to start conference play and are going to be doing it against the team that was promoted from Tier 3 and the Conference USA last year in Boise State. They are still a pretty solid team and definitely have the capabilities to surprise us. We get them at home, so I'm hoping to see a really competitive game and really go into that. Thank you so much for watching this video all the way through if you've made it this far, and we will see you next week in Billings.